Hi, everyone, and welcome to our event. And thank you for joining us and everything on Zoom. I know San Jose State is having some Wi-Fi issues right now, so it's great to see all of you here. In collaboration with the College of Health and Human Sciences Student Success Center and the Institute for the Study of Sports, Society, and Social Change, also known as the Institute, we are excited to host this event on mentoring excellence, pursuing education and careers. The Institute, also known as ISSSSC, will share the history and role of mentoring. And in this presentation, they will talk about the benefits of mentorship during and after college and the best practices for maintaining mentor and mentee relationships. So my name is Talisha Teague, and I am a GE academic advisor and the programs coordinator for the College of Health and Human Sciences Student Success Center. We are joined today by the Executive Director of the Institute, Dr. Akila Carter-Francique, who is an Associate Professor for the African American Studies Department at San Jose State. Also joining us is the Executive Assistant and Akila's right hand, Elizabeth Doyle, and she's also our Belongingness Committee's Zoom teacher. So thank you, Beth, for all the support that you've given us. And also joining us is the Assistant Director of the Institute, Dr. Amy August, who is an Assistant Professor of Sociology at San Jose State. So it's so nice to see all of you again, and welcome Dr. Akila, Dr. Amy, and Elizabeth. How are you doing today?
Hello. We're doing good and glad to be here. So glad to be here on this, what day is it? Hump day, right?
Hump day. Wednesday, halfway there. And I think, is it the first day of fall? I think we're all in like sweaters and hoodies and everything, right?
Oh yeah, well, I think I was, listening to a show yesterday. They were talking about summer. I'm like, we're still in summer. So yeah. It was still sort of a new activity for us.
I just follow Starbucks with the pumpkin spice latte whenever that is offered. There you go.
Right. Wonderful.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I'm here if you need me.
Okay, great. Well, greetings everyone out there in virtual land. Such a pleasure to be here and join with you today. I'm going to take a moment, share my screen. My file doesn't want to save. There we go. With each and every one. Can everybody see it out there? Can I get a thumbs up if we can see? Okay. Just want to make sure. And welcome to, again, San Jose State University on this Wednesday for this Kin Belonging event. Today, we wanted to come to you from the Institute for the Study of Sports, Society, and Social Change and share a little bit of information on mentoring. So I'm going to try to get this presentation going. Hopefully, all my bells and whistles will start working for me. There we go. We're going to talk about mentoring excellence, pursuing education and careers. And while I really believe that this opportunity, this particular conversation, as we like to call it at ISSSC, is open for everyone, we're going to focus a little bit on our kinesiology folks in this space today. So with that said, my little music, I'll let that go on past. We already had some music intro, so great. I wanted to introduce you again to this amazing team. I don't say my team, we are a team together. And so again, Dr. Amy August, give us a hand wave. Coming to us, gonna be sharing some of her lived experiences as well. And Miss Beth Doyle, the incomparable Miss Beth Doyle, Executive Assistant for the Institute for the Study of Sports, Society, and Social Change, is joining us as well. Okay, so I put our names and our faces out there. So if you're ever looking to reach any of us, go through Beth. Call her first. But no, she's the calendar keeper. But definitely just reach out to any one of us in these moments if you should need to communicate or connect, and we'll communicate with one another to make sure that the message gets delivered. So we thank you for joining us today, and thank you for being able to sit in on this particular conversation. I want to give some quick shout outs to some folks in the audience that I know are there. Some of our students that we work with. Jessie Bear is out there, Sophia Raha is out there. So hello, hello, hello. And for those of you that we don't know, we look forward to getting to know you in this presentation today. So the Institute, yes, has been around for a little while. In COVID years, it's a little hard to say, but it started in 2017, January of 2017, here at San Jose State University as the brainchild, the living legacy, if you will, of Dr. Harry Edwards, who is known as one of the co-architects of the Olympic Project for Human Rights. He and Ken Noel came together during that 68 year to formalize the Olympic Project for Human Rights. And we saw, I should say, the Olympic Committee for Human Rights, which we saw populate the Olympic Project for Human Rights. And we saw that sort of culminating event on the podium in 1968, Mexico City Olympics, with Tommy Smith and John Carlos in black glove fist atop the stand. We are here to continue that legacy, to continue that effort with what we do here at the Institute, with our programs, with our educational engagements such as this, with our research, and with our outreach. So again, we thank you for being a part of what we do, and we look forward to sharing this next message with you today. So wanted to go in, first of all, mentoring. Why is mentoring even important? Before we get into that, I really like to take a time to share some of the history of mentoring, okay? And so what I have here, this notion of the mentoring relationship is considered quite complex, but it is something that is very important, as we see here, developmentally important. And we're gonna use this term in air quotes, if you will, a man or woman, right? An individual can have an early adulthood. The term mentor is generally used in a much narrower sense to mean teacher, advisor, sponsor. Mentoring is defined not in terms of formal roles, but in terms of the character of the relationship and the function it serves, okay? So that gives us a little background of what mentoring is. How many of us in the audience have a mentor, have someone that they consider a mentor? You can give me a thumbs up, a hand wave. Yeah, here we go. We've got a couple, we've got two, okay. Others? Well, not yet, okay. No worries, no worries. We're gonna help you identify one if you're looking. So mentoring in sport. Wanted to focus and sort of narrow in on this space of sport. Is near and dear to me. My graduate degree is actually in sports studies, but my first position was in the Department of, or Division of Sport Management at Texas A&M University. And so I taught multiple classes in those spaces. Also taught in the Department of Health and Kinesiology at Prairie View A&M University. So I've been all around sort of the sport academic spaces, a former student athlete myself, like Dr. August. And so we really enjoy the sports space, but the notion of mentoring in sport is just as important as it is sort of in our broader society. From a sport perspective, mentoring is talked about as a process in which a more experienced person serves as a role model, provides guidance and support to a developing novice, okay, or also called a protege. And that particular individual can also serve to sponsor an individual's career process, okay? And so when we talk about the purpose and function of a mentor, it has a couple of areas it focuses on. One, to provide development and support in a person's career and psychosocial understandings. And two, right, to do so in a way that it would be formal programs and sometimes through informal engagements as well. So serving in these spaces from a developmental standpoint, typically for your career, and typically again for that psychosocial development. And so oftentimes when we talk about this mentor, they're typically, or should not be, they advise, if you will, they're not a family member unless that family member is perhaps in the business, right? We're going to let mom and dad serve as mom and dad, and then consult with those individuals that are actually in that career space. But again, also focus on the psychosocial development. So we have to understand, first and foremost, we are growing individuals, and no matter what age we are, we're always learning. And as we go into each and every one of these spaces, these career spaces, particularly, there is a developmental process that's necessary. There's an opportunity to understand and learn the culture, learn about the engagements that you have with one another. And so we really want to sort of take that into context and work with that particular mentor to help usher us into those spaces and navigate those spaces the best way we can. That is often through, again, either a formal program. So oftentimes if you get that new position, you're automatically sort of assigned a mentor at the company, at the organization, in that association, to help guide you and help you navigate and get to the meetings that you need to get to, make sure that they help you through particular projects and the completion of tasks if you have questions, and just help you learn, again, some of that culture, the terminology used, the associations that you may need to join a membership with, and help you navigate in those spaces in a formal capacity. Other ways that those interactions can happen is through informal engagements. So you may, for example, go to a conference with your formal mentor, right? And then meet some individual out there, network with them, and they, decide, hey, you know what? You're kind of cool, or I like what you're doing. I see where you're going, or I also went to that school. And you decide to come together in an informal way and have that individual serve as your mentor and you as their mentee. So we'll move from there. So I have been exploring this issue of mentorship for a while, to the point that I studied it. It was something I was very curious about as a former student athlete, as someone coming into this world of sport, not having a lot of career experience as a student, as an undergraduate student. I wanted to learn best practices as I got into those different spaces. But when we think about it from an athlete perspective, that was sort of my first study, just kind of understand, well, how can we sort of look at mentoring from a student athlete perspective? So this was one of the first studies I did in 2010. I talked about this notion of and explored this notion of perspectives of mentoring, examining Black female student athlete experiences. What I found in this notion of mentorship is that they served the person that they worked with. Those individuals not only provided career support, right, through their sporting experience, they also provide, again, that psychosocial support, but they also provide athlete support. And that's another nuanced feature when we talk about sort of the student athlete experience of what it means when we talk about being an athlete and the complexity of some of that. We just got off the Olympic Games. If any of you watched it, there were a lot going on. There's travel involved. There's uniform issues involved. There's just navigating social media. There's navigating just your trade or your craft of sport and performance and sportsmanship. And so those were some of the things I examined in that particular piece and journey. I then began to explore a little bit deeper. And in this particular examination, of looking at this notion of, again, mentoring excellence and how, kind of understanding some of the specifics of it. With this particular study, again, they talked about career support, psychosocial athlete support, but they talked about it in the respect of that career support, those individuals that they connected with as a mentor, that served as a mentor, focused on career development, focused on personal and life development, academic achievement, athletic development, and work ethic. From a psychosocial standpoint, they focused on life issues and development, athletic concerns they had, relationship concerns, yes, the drama, academic as well, but also this notion of solitude that often happens in a space as being an athlete. From an athletic perspective, the athletic development, yes, the concerns, personal development, and helping navigate the academics. Overall, though, they saw this mentor as an individual that served as a guide, as a role model, but they had to have this relational characteristic. They had to be somebody that they trusted, that they knew. But they also had to provide constructive criticism. You know, one of those things about being a mentor, we're not here to sort of critique and sort of beat down on an individual. We're here to work, to uplift, to help you get better. And so those are some of the things that I want to share from you with this particular research experience, is that these are what these young women saw as an ideal mentor for them, okay? So when we talk about mentoring, when I talk about mentoring, I also look at these other aspects. Excuse me, let me go back
Dr.
one
Keelan,
slide.
can I jump in there? There's
Oh,
a
yes,
question in the
please
chat.
do. Oh,
Yeah, there's
yes.
a question in the chat from Omar asking what does psychosocial mean? And I think that's a great question that we can address here, but
Go ahead, take it,
psychosocial-
Dr. August.
Sure, yeah, I mean, and I don't have a formal definition, but like off the top of my head, psychosocial, it's sort of like a domain of concern, right? Like that is sort of like the overlapping between like your psychological needs and your social needs. So the person who's going to kind of mentor you through psychosocial issues really is kind of addressing, you know, sort of some of your relationships and how they affect you on a personal level. Maybe some of the, you know, challenges that you may encounter when you're, you know, interacting with a boss or you know, a coworker, or if you're talking about a team kind of setting with one of your teammates, maybe, or an opponent or a coach, or even an athletic trainer, right? So they kind of, you know, listen to your stories about how you're like struggling in like a social situation, and they kind of help you process how that feels, and, you know, maybe what you might do to kind of improve those relationships so that you feel better about whatever's happening in your personal life. So like, that's a very like context specific example of what a psychosocial mentor might be working on with you. Does that answer your question? If so, like maybe just give us a thumbs up. Great, thanks. And please, that's awesome that you just jumped in there with questions. So anyone else, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just ask. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. August, excellent response. That's what it is, you know, being able to manage some of these nuanced issues. And it was a perfect setup. So thank you for the question, because you set up my slide.
Well, I did see the slideshow ahead of time.
Yeah, so mentoring excellence, sport, and diversity. So to that point of the psychosocial, how do we manage some of the issues that are taking place in our society? These are a few other studies that I conducted where I focused on, yes, mentoring, but then we began to talk about mentoring from a standpoint of how do we negotiate our identity in some of these spaces? How do we, again, begin to understand how do we identify a mentor? What does it mean when we talk about ethic of care? So I talked about this whole notion of being able to care for a particular individual, and is that your responsibility as a mentor? So I'm speaking to those that perhaps mentor. What is your responsibility as a leader, as a guide, as a mentor in this space, to be able to nurture, again, the development of that young person, and as we navigate feelings in these spaces, okay? The notion of mentoring from a culturally relevant standpoint. What I mean by that is an opportunity that individual that's mentoring you also understands your intersectionality as an individual, or more specifically, the identities that are within you. I'm Black, I identify as Black, I identify as female. I may identify with a certain religious background. I may identify as a parent, a mother. I may identify as a sister. I may identify, I'm from Kansas, a Midwestern child. So finding an individual that sort of understands your intersectionality, maybe where you're from, the fact that maybe you're an international student, to be able to have some commonality and be able to, in many ways, help support you, again, as you navigate different cultural spaces in those places. This notion of social capital and social support. So to understand and to take into account all the wonderfulness that you have, the fact of your geographic location where you grew up, or your religious background, or your identity racially, or your sexual orientation, and to take all of that into context and say, all of that has value, and that mentor can be able to help you understand how to best leverage it, right? To do your job and for you to sort of manifest this excellence. And because we're in an academic space, I've recently written on mentoring and navigating the doctoral process, that graduate school experience. That is, whew, and it was a long time ago. I will say that I did get this degree, but that I go back into it every time I'm meeting with my mentees, many of whom I met and have mentored from an informal standpoint. They saw me at a conference. Hey, can you be on my committee? Hey, I saw you give that speech. Can you just help me, sort of navigate? What do I need to do? What do I need to do next? And as they go through these different junctures in their academic program, just to help give some insight. And that's one of the things I do, is try to bring to light some of the pathways you can take as a graduate student into these different careers. So hopefully that answers some questions as well. Do we have any questions before I go into that? Okay. So these were just a few areas that I talked about, but what does it mean when we talk about kinesiology? What does it mean from a program standpoint, from a career standpoint? So I definitely want to make sure that we take the time to hone in on those particular programs. So I took it upon myself to take a look at the program here at San Jose State. And I saw that there's a number of different offshoots. You can go programmatically, or tracks as we often call it in this space, from adaptive physical education to athletic training, exercise and fitness specialists, inclusive physical activity, rehabilitation sciences, single subject teaching, and yes, the space that I first know was sport management and culture. And this is from an undergraduate or a Bachelor of Science program. How many of those individuals do we have in the room today? This is the time we're starting to get into this active, interactive space. How many undergrads do we have as I start going into the graduates? And what are we studying? How many undergraduate students are on the call today? Get a thumbs up? Maybe. Couple, maybe. Okay. So we have those particular undergraduate programs, but we also have, oh, there we go. Thank you. Now, what are you studying right now? What's your track that you're on?
Public health.
Public health? Great, awesome. Love that. So that's, again, a career path that we have to learn more about. One of the things that I want to also say is that, yes, there's a graduate level as well. And when I looked at the program here at San Jose State University, we have up to the master's level. We have athletic training, sport management again, exercise physiology, and sports studies. Okay. How many graduate students in the space? We got one. I know we got another one out there. We got a couple of graduate students in this space too. So, those are things to begin to look at when we talk about your academic trajectory and understanding the role mentoring can serve in this space for you. But to first be mindful of those particular academic programs. So what are the benefits of having a mentor? Well, if we look at this, we can begin to see from a mentor perspective that there are some benefits, and from a mentee perspective, there's some benefits. I have it on this sort of scale structure, okay? So we're gonna read this here. From a mentee perspective, if we can start on our right-hand column, we look at some of the benefits being, if we go bottom up, guidance on developing strengths and overcoming weaknesses, emotional and psychological support, access to an example or a role model, and also introduction to new ideas and ways of thinking. And that's something I think oftentimes, and again, Dr. August, feel free to jump in, that may get overlooked, is that those mentors can also begin to open your eyes to some things that you had not seen before, some experiences that you haven't had, and to pose new questions or a new way to look at something that you've always looked at. It's kind of like watching that same movie, and then a few years later you watch it again. It's like, oh, I didn't realize this, because you've had some experiences that can sort of frame your thinking a little bit differently. And even from a mentor. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to just jump in there. Yeah, I think that's it's super important. And I realized that, like, with my own mentors throughout, like, as I look back over my career, I'm definitely like a career changer as an adult. I started off coaching, first of all. I coach gymnastics, and it's a real big transition, I think, coming from being an athlete to being a coach. So
Oh,
when I was kind of
yes.
navigating that process, I knew a lot about the technicalities of the sport at a really high level, but I had no idea how to interact with like 3-year-olds, for example. So I had a really great
Whew.
mentor whose name was Karina, who was teaching me how to teach preschoolers. So it really like I thought you could negotiate with them. I thought, like you wanted to like allow their identities to shine. I mean, like I was giving them a lot more agency than they probably should have been having as 3-year-olds. But the Karina, who's kind of my mentor at that level, really showed me how to channel their energy and channel their passion in really, constructive and proactive ways, as opposed to just letting them do whatever they want to do because, you're respecting their identities. So like how to, allow people's agency to shine through in age appropriate ways that are also safe and that are also like moving them towards their objective, as an athlete or, a small child who's like trying to learn how to become an athlete. But then, like as my careers kind of evolved, then I became a teacher. I learned a lot about teaching from some of my mentors at the high school where I was a teacher. So, I had a really hard time with classroom management at first. I was young, I was female, I was 5 feet tall, and a lot of times kids or students, would challenge my authority. And I didn't know how to react to that kind of situation in a really constructive way that would, like strengthen the relationship that I was having with the students, and also get the rest of the class to like respect me as well. So I had some really great mentors who kind of gave me some tips and tricks for how to really, more than anything, like structure my class in a more interesting way that allows students to participate in meaningful ways, in activities that are helping them learn, but also not putting them on the spot or making them feel uncomfortable, or just basically gave me really concrete tips that were useful in that specific setting, for like how to kind of navigate those relationships, classroom management issues, as a brand new first year teacher straight out of school. And then, later on when I was like a grad student, like I had some fantastic mentors in the academic space, so my advisors were, fantastic and like helping me kind of expand the ideas that I kind of considered my ways of thinking, introduced me to new scholars, introduced me to like the work of their colleagues and other people that were kind of answering similar questions and had similar interests, but approaching it from different angles that really challenged my way of thinking. And then finally, like in the new professional space as a new professor, Dr. Akila is a fantastic mentor who's been able to really like teach me how to do so many like, public speaking, for example, is something that I really did not, outside of the classroom, I did not have a lot of experience in. So just kind of seeing how she navigates that space and how she interacts with so many colleagues and maintains those connections and helps others to build those connections for the first time, has been, really fantastic. And I'm super appreciative of that. But so anyway, my example of like being a mentee and all the different ways that you can benefit shows just that like at each stage of your career, you're going to have different mentors and they're going to give you different things. But if they're a good mentor, they're really giving you advice and help and support that's really kind of specific to the, the stage of your career, the state, whether it's a career as an athlete or a career as a professional. And, there's lots to be appreciative of and lots of ways to benefit. So thank you, Dr. Akila. I'll turn it back to you.
That was right on point, Dr. Amy, because, you really just spoke of everything that was on this list here. Guidance and guidance on developing strengths and overcoming weaknesses, the emotional and psychological support, access, again, to that example and introduction to new ideas. I reread that on purpose because those are some of the major benefits. And then on the mentor side of things, so I thank you for, even mentioning me. I mentor, but I'm still being mentored, if you will. It's a continual process. And so from a mentor perspective, for those of you that may be in that space right now, even as a student, you can be, I want to put that out there. But in your role as a mentor, what you'll find as far as benefits to you are that development of your own personal leadership and coaching styles. It's an opportunity to be exposed yourself to fresh perspectives, ideas, and approaches. And I have to give a shout out to the students that work with the Institute that are on the webinar today, to thank them for introducing me to fresh perspectives, to giving me new ideas or vantage points to consider, for approaching topics and situations and subject matter differently. I think for many of us transitioning in this COVID space to virtual engagement, I've had to just be open to that, but it's a flexibility that you have to have within yourself as a mentor to be willing and open yourself up to that exposure opportunity. Also, as a mentor, you have an opportunity to be reflective, reflective of your own personal goals and your own personal practices. Goals that I had, maybe a decade ago, 10 years ago, were one set of goals. But by being a mentor to a younger person or to a peer even, right? Opened up some other ideas and opportunities that I was like, you know what? I want to do that too. So I'm like, oh, well, that's an opportunity that I have. And not that I closed my mind to it, but I didn't know that I could do that too. So you're still learning as a mentor, but you're still learning how to come into your own. So a lot of identity and reflective opportunities by being a mentor yourself. Again, leaving yourself open to that opportunity. And another benefit, which some may put at the front end, I put it at the tail end when we talk about this, is your mentee achieving their success, what they have defined or what you and your mentee have worked out as a goal, and so being able to celebrate in that is a great opportunity. So I've seen, some of my mentees just go way beyond, and I'm like, please remember me on your way up as you continue to surpass not only, your own expectations, but I think what we may have set out for one another. I am so at awe with some of the young people I've worked with, again, the peers that I work with that have been my age. There's been some mentees that are older than me as well. But I'm just very appreciative of each and every one of us, whether mentee or mentor, that we've grown through our relationship together. Okay. Any feedback on the mentor? Anything you want to add, Dr. Amy, on the mentor role?
On the mentor, yeah, no, I think that those are really important aspects or elements of the mentor role. And I think it's really important to bear in mind that, as you continue to kind of move throughout your career, I mean, I know you as students, some of you are career changers, like you're going back to school because you want to become something else. Some of you are just coming straight out of high school, but I think it's just really important to recognize that at each step, as you continue to move forward, there's always people who are, kind of following the same path that you went through already. Yes. And so even if you're not there yet, you still have wisdom and you still have knowledge to share, and you benefit from forming those relationships where you are the mentor. Even if you feel like, you're a newcomer to the space, there are still people who are newer than you are. So it's really important to pass the torch.
Yes, great messaging, great messaging. And it goes into, as we talked about, the opportunity to pass the torch, but also the understanding that when we talk about this mentor-mentee, that it is indeed a relationship. You are embarking on getting to know someone, oftentimes on a little bit deeper level because of that psychosocial component, that emotional component, and being able to take journeys, the highs and the lows. And I mean that seriously. You're going to go on a journey, no matter what you pursue, but being able to have somebody with you, help you through that is definitely helpful. So when we talk about the relationship, I want you all to think about it in terms of this. 4 different aspects, sort of the essential elements of this relationship, is that when you begin to forge that mentor-mentee relationship, that you, excuse me, sorry about that. Trying to move my chat box around my screen and clicking on these buttons. But in those 4 essential elements of the relationship, that you begin to think about it in terms of this, that you have an opportunity to establish a sense of basic trust between you and your mentee, or you and your mentor, okay? That you also take an opportunity to recognize the realization of this dream or vision. So it's not only building that trust, and that's again, just sort of that personal comfortability, that what you say to that individual will be received, and will be received with constructive criticism, with empathy, and with an understanding again of who you are in your fullness and all of your identity, right? The recognition, if you will, or the realization of this dream or vision is the opportunity to forge a relationship with someone that understands this is what my goal is, and this is where I want to go. And that they're willing to take that journey with you, that they're willing to see the possibility and see beyond what other people may see as barriers or limitations, or the notion of you're not going to make it because of A, B, C, and D. That individual is like, listen, I know these are some factors. Many people may see those as barriers, but we're going to work to overcome that. There's ways to navigate around that and to lead you down that path, right, towards realization. Third, that you have an opportunity to, in this space, in this relationship, particularly from a career standpoint, as Dr. August stressed here, is to promote this attainment of professional skills and confidence. So again, what once was perhaps deemed as barriers, well, you don't have the experience, or you don't have this particular knowledge, or you don't have this certification, to understand, you know what, as your mentor, here's an association over here that I want you to join. Here's a certification that you can get here. Here's another one that you can get, and you can do it while you're working full time, and to help you navigate and problem solve. And here's a scholarship that's available to achieve this particular skill set. And you can do it in 3 months. And then we'll begin to go into the next stage of things to help see that and carry that vision forward. And the fourth essential element of the relationship is to introduce networks and promote networking. You want an individual that's going to expose you to things that you haven't been exposed to before, to sort of nudge you in some ways, because you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go in there. But to say, you know what, I'm going to this conference, you're going to come with me. You know, we're going to go together. I'm going to introduce you to some other people. And I try to do that in every way possible. You know, I took some students to a conference right before COVID. Some of my colleagues were there. I introduced those students to my colleagues. Next thing you know, my colleagues are sitting down with my students and they're talking about research and zhuzhing up presentations before they go on. And it was just such a delight to see that network open up, and an opportunity just to meet, to engage, to talk, and to share, and to know that here's another individual that also can serve to support me in my rise. Okay. And so one of those things, this screen is going super fast. Why does mentorship matter as a kinesiology student? Let's chat up the box. Why do you think it matters as a kinesiology student? What are some thoughts? What are some ideas? Or if you want to unmute and share why you think mentoring matters. Again, you cannot be a kinesiology student. You can come from another field. That's perfectly fine. But why do you think this notion of mentoring matters as we think about we being students in this space of higher education? Just throw some thoughts in there. It may be one word, it may be a phrase, it may be a sentence, but please, please share. Having people whom you can trust. Building a network. Yes, Dr. August, help me read some of these here. Yeah.
Can I call out there?
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answers. I see that there's a question mark in the chat, but like really, it's like, what does this, you know, like these are your insights, these are your thoughts. Like literally, you can't get this wrong. So just share, you know, share your ideas, because there are lots of different ways that you know, mentorship can be important to kinesiology students and students in general.
This is great, Omar. Having people whom you can trust, that is important as you navigate these spaces. Again, trying to figure it out. Having someone you can lean on and can say, hey, how do I feel about this? And know that your comments and your feelings will be kept in confidence in that sense. Building a network. Sophia, I see you put a question mark. There's no need to put a question mark. You got it. Building a network. We see LinkedIn. We see, well, shoot, it started with what? Well, I'm not going to date myself with MySpace, but Facebook, right? We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have LinkedIn. We're building that network. Perfect, excellent. Giada, am I saying that right? Help me with that. I want to make sure I'm not mispronouncing names.
It's Gaida.
Gaida, thank you. Lack of experience. So are you saying you as an individual may lack some experience, so that's why it's important to build that mentorship?
Correct.
Thank you. Perfect. You know, and it's those things that you may have a lot of experience, but you may not have experience in this area either. So you're still trying to pick up. I'm still picking up little bits and pieces and, you know, learning how to make a better PowerPoint. So there's other skill sets that we're finding that we need as the field actually moves too, and transitions. So yes, lack of experience. Thank you. Talisha, thank you for sharing it. Internship, job guidance. Exactly. Find a way to connect, to find, build a network, to find ways to plug in to gain more experience. Those internships. We have our interns at the Institute that are just doing great things. But again, they hopped on, and social work, for example, provided an opportunity, and we came into that space and shared our story. And we have a number of social workers that are working with the Institute. So yes, internship opportunities. And Artie, oh my gosh, this is a great one. Very competitive market. It is. And so that mentorship can even lead into not only internships, but job opportunities, or even just to know, hey, that the announcement is out there. You need to apply. Yes. Omar, again, yes, learning things that you may not know otherwise. Oh my gosh. There's so much that we can say on that. That may be its own group session. There's a culture that's involved in each of these particular career paths, in each industry, in each business that you go work in. It may be the same industry, but just another office. And there are those nuances that we don't always know about. I often call them the hidden curriculum, right? The hidden aspects of the job that we don't know. And that's such a great thing that mentor can also usher you through those places. Thank you for sharing. In concert with all of you all have expressed, I also want to keep in mind, because this is a lot of the work that I do, that Dr. August does, is just understanding that you as an individual also come again with your multiple identities. And that having a mentor that recognizes your full self, that also can help you navigate some of these spaces and places, is also necessary. So whether from a racial perspective, from a gender identity, male, female, binary, non-binary, right? Sexual orientation, these are all aspects to acknowledge as you begin to explore these spaces and places. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come out of this PowerPoint presentation. I'm actually gonna click on this link. Hopefully it'll blast the way I want it to. But what I wanted to do was to take a moment to share with you all just a look into the field when we talk about exercise science. So I'm going to stop share real quick, go and share another screen with you, and we'll populate. Because one of the things that I think is important as we talk about mentoring and career exploration, and then we'll move into this activity. I know I'm moving through here, but I want to be mindful of your time, is to also understand what does the field look like? What does the industry look like when we talk about the job market, okay? And so if my page will populate, yes, it is, and it's coming slowly. But I went to this website called Zipia, and it's a career expert, and I pulled up a particular piece of information. Ignore my multiple tabs. I'm working on several projects at once. So what you'll see here, oh no, hold on, go back. I might have Miss Beth pull this up for me. Let me stop here and pull this back up. Let me try one more time to get into this space. There we go. Okay. Fun times with technology. So what we see here is that it says as a kinesiologist, demographics and statistics in the US. And one of the things that is always important to me when I even look at these jobs, when I share this information with my students, is to kind of understand, well, where do I personally fit into these respective spaces and places? How many males or females are in the industry when we talk about the job market? And we're seeing this here, somewhat evenly matched in the 40s, if you will, almost 50% male when we talk about kinesiology. Of course, there's several different career paths when we talk about this field of kinesiology, okay? It begins to look at the gender pay gap. So you can begin to understand some of those nuances. Well, why did this person make this much and this person make another? So we can sort of see what those trends are, if you will. I don't need to do that right now. All that algorithm stuff, Dr. August, I learned at our HRI conference. You begin to look at the years, okay, and looking at percentages and how the field has changed from 2008 to 2018, what some of the trends are, the ups and downs as far as those individuals in the field. Male to female ratio, I thought was quite interesting when we're looking at these professions. I begin to scroll down, and you can do the same. We're looking at statistics by race. How many are in these fields? We can see it's predominantly white, okay, 80%. We've got Asian, Hispanic, Latino, 4.5, Black, African American, 2.3, unknown, American Indian, Alaskan Native, 0.3%. So you can begin to understand sort of how are you represented in the field, right? Kinesiologist, race and ethnicity over time. Again, this longitudinal account to be able to understand. It begins to look at the gap by race when we're talking about wages. We can understand that as well. Age breakdown. Oh, how old are you in the industry? And the thing I want to keep in mind, I think Dr. August pointed it out as well. You're open to switch career paths. It is okay. But having that mentor is going to be key in helping you sort of pivot into those spaces and places. So yes, even if you're 45, for example, and you're switching career paths, find a mentor to help you and usher you into that field and that industry. Degree, we're in that space right now, higher ed. How many have bachelor's degrees? How many have master's degrees? How many have doctorates? How many have other certifications, right? And what is the wage gap in that as well? Because we're all concerned about that money. Employment statistics, particular in this space of COVID that we're in right now, it's very important to understand what does the market look like as we're getting hired. Turnover statistics, what does that look like? Unemployment rate. Again, all information that you can look up and find, but these are also aspects, again, that you can have these conversations with your mentor about and talk about what those things look like. LGBTQ ratio, okay?
Can I just jump in there quick?
Yes, please do.
Also, just because I noticed that some of you are you're in social work or you're in a variety of other fields. I know Jesse's in English. So you can search this, or you can use this website to search any occupation you're interested in. So if you're even if you're not a kinesiology major, you can type it in the search bar at the top and find all the same information about your job that you're targeting.
This is what I think is cool too, this heat map that they have going on. So you can kind of see where some of those jobs are and the salaries, all parts of the country. And while we have the US here, I'm going to speak from an international perspective as well. Don't let our US borders hinder you from going outside of the states to find employment, to work, and to be in these international spaces. So those are the pieces that we would like to offer up and share with you all. These are great questions to ask your mentor about, about wages, about, racial, identity, sexual orientation, about where to go work. What are the sort of the trending spaces? Do I need to be in California? Or do I need to be in Florida? Do I need to be in Iowa? Where are those spaces and places where I can do that, get that experience that I need in order to take myself to the next level? And what are those opportunities available overseas? And so this is a great website I just wanted to share with you all. But again, to Dr. August's point, there are a multitude of positions that you can find on this particular website. So this is just one I wanted to share, that we wanted to share with you today, okay? Great. I think I'm back in this space. I'll have it right. So as we continue on, and I really want to get into this notion, yes, kinesiology in this diverse world. What does it look like for you? We showed you that Zipia, we shared that information with you, and hopefully that brings you just a little bit more understanding about some of the trends in the field, but then also the notion again of why it's important to have someone guide you on this path that you will take, on this journey that you will go on, and continue to be that person of support for you, okay? So what is diversity all about? What does that mean? I know it's been a buzzword, particularly over the past few months. What does that mean? And from an education standpoint, they define it as a sum of ways that people are both alike and different, and thus the dimensions of diversity include race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, language, culture, religion, mental and physical ability, class, and immigration status. All of those things, right? So keep that in mind when we talk about these notions of diversity and how you fit into these spaces. Everyone has a diverse background, if you will, if we begin to look at those particular aspects of the way it's defined from an educational standpoint. Those types of understandings are very valuable as we start to think about the field of kinesiology, the field of any of our particular academic majors, and this notion of being able to have access into the field, okay? The way equity is sort of delivered in these different points, and this notion of inclusion. And while it is considered perhaps a buzz phrase right now, it is a valuable aspect of our everyday education, as well as our experiences in these different workspaces, to be able, again, to be mindful of your particular identity and to ensure through the support of those at your particular office or business or place of work, as well as through the support of that mentor from that maybe in a formal role or even an informal role, to help you navigate these spaces and places to ensure that you do have an opportunity to access these spaces, that delivery of program, access to or opportunity, if you will, to promotion, workshops, trainings is handled from an equitable standpoint, and that you do have an opportunity to feel like you are included in these spaces and places, and ultimately have a sense of belonging in these particular places. The graphic I have in front of you pertains a lot more to our college spaces, but this is a great space, again, to begin to build this network, to identify these mentors, some of whom may be your professors, to be able to help you navigate these places. So I had to just deliver that piece and share that with you. At this point, we're going to navigate into just a little activity. And in the last few minutes, I just wanted to find a way for you to begin to think about, because I know when we asked the question at the top of the program, how many of you have mentors? And I only saw a couple of thumbs up. So we need to sort of take this effort to begin to work to identify who a mentor could be for you, okay? And it starts here, it starts now, all right? So let me move from there. Let's go on. There we go. So before we go into this activity, I want you all to think about this, right? That yes, we've talked about mentors, and that is certainly key. Again, a mentor serves as an advisor and a role model to help you as mentees or proteges determine your goals and formulate your plans. They may or may not, again, as we said, work in the same organization. That's the mentor. But also understand that there's an opportunity to add other people to your circle, right? So there's the sponsor. The sponsor is an individual that serves as an advocate, right? They oftentimes take a direct role in the advancement of you as the protege. They sponsor work at the same time that other organizations, okay? So sponsor work at the same organization as their protege. So you may not be their mentor, but you may be a protege, someone following up under you. And then the third level, the third individual that could also come into your space are champions. These serve as investment providers and creates access by removing barriers, as we talked about before. Champions are in positions of power and are influential and often sit on boards. So again, if those barriers of access come to the fore. It's something for you to begin to acknowledge as you go through this process. So what I wanted to do was to basically have these three entities here. We're going to drop in the chat a Google form, an activity that you can do and share with us your results as you begin to move forward, okay? To begin to really try to understand where you are in this place. And so I'm going to stop share and of that and share a Google form with you. The Miss Beth dropped that in the chat for you so you can see, but I want to just take you through this worksheet. Not that we have to complete now, but I want you to begin to sort of take the steps to understand ways that you can identify a mentor in our last few minutes, okay? So I'm going to go through the worksheet with you just real quick. Share screen. And again, it's entitled Mentoring Excellence. You can identify us here, but to share your name, email, you know, if you choose, what year you are, your academic major, your career aspirations. Do you have a current version of your resume? If you don't, something to work on with that mentor with, right? To make sure that you can get that completed. But here's the activity. Here's an opportunity. Do you have mentors? Do you have sponsors? Or do you have champions? Below is what we call Venn circles. Using the space in this following diagram, list 3 people who would contribute to guiding your career aspirations. Next to each person's name, list their role. Are they a mentor? Are they a sponsor? Are they a champion? And describe why he, she, they are chosen, okay? And been selected for you. So we want you to take the time to think about who these people would be. And we know it may take more time than we have on this program today. So we have this form available so we can follow up with you as the Institute and also be of support to you today, okay? So again, the name, you're gonna put those individuals in there, and person 1, their role, their description. Person 2, their role and description, and person 3, okay?
Sorry, Dr. Akila.
Yeah.
Some people are having issues accessing the form.
Okay.
So the link that I dropped from the form is not populating. I don't know if you're receiving share access requests. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I will look at that on my end. So just give me a second. I'll pop out of the screen. But I want to throw this last question. Should you have a mentor, take a moment to share your perspective of a current mentoring relationship, what it means to you, how it has affected the both of you, and share that information with us. And we'll be happy again to follow up accordingly. So I'm going to come out of this screen share and get that Notion published for you so you can be able to access it, and just hit you with one last note in this space, okay?
Sure. Well, Dr. Akila is sharing that. Let me just jump in there. I think a lot of you guys, you know, if you're new to San Jose State, or if you're just on campus for the first time because of the pandemic, you may be wondering, like, how do I get a mentor, right? Like you might be like looking at this list and thinking like, I don't have a mentor. I don't know how to do it, right? And you know, we see all these wonderful things that mentors can do for you. The least of which are like, maybe the most important of which is like opening doors and like being a champion and being an advocate for you. And we know that, you know, maybe you don't have one, but a lot of other people do. So it's a disadvantage not to have one. So we do, you know, it's a really important kind of relationship to cultivate, but you may be wondering about how to get started. And so my advice to you there is just don't go out and ask somebody like, hey, will you be my mentor? I mean, that might work, you know, that you might be really bold and brave and like, you can just go out and do that. But if you're a little shyer maybe, or you don't feel comfortable just asking somebody outright, you know, just ask them about their work, right? Like just starting conversations with people who, you know, have a lot in common, or are kind of in the role that you would like to see yourself in someday, for example. And just, you know, send them a quick email and say, can I have 15 minutes of your time to learn a little bit more about your job and what you do, right? Or just, you know, ask them questions like after class, for example, if it's a professor, just openly start talking just normally. Go ahead. Sorry, Dr.
And
Akila.
these steps, yeah, and to her point, these are some steps right here. Understand that you need a mentor. Seek more than one mentor. Select a mentor thoughtfully. Express your mentor expectations. Identify mentors outside of your department. Acknowledge identity stereotypes, and then mentor forward. Once you become, our mentee, then give that off to someone else. And so those are the final steps that we have to go along with what Dr. August shared. And so we hope that some of these steps, the worksheet, will be very helpful as you start to navigate this process, consider the role of mentoring, and as we say, sort of move from words to action in your efforts. Lastly, we just wanted to share some of these mentors. Feel free to take a photo. Mentoring One-on-One, Mentoring Matters, the Mentor Leader, Critical Mentoring, and Mentoring in Diversity as some resources to help you through this process, whether you are a mentee or a mentor. We have found them of use as we work with our respective people and individuals in our space. So we definitely thank you for taking the time with us today, for sharing this platform with us. I've got some references. I'm flashing through everything pretty up real quick, just to get you to this point to continue to follow the Institute and the programs that we have. And I think Ms. Talisha will take us out as soon as I stop sharing my screen and share some final thoughts and upcoming programs and events that we have with the Institute. So from the Institute for the Study of Sports, Society, and Social Change, on behalf of myself, Dr. Amy August, and Ms. Beth Doyle, we thank you for your time, and we look forward to any questions that you may have later on.
Thank you, Dr. Akila, Dr. Amy, and Ms. Beth. It's like, can you tell why we always have this event? This is, I think, it's our second or third event, and it's our favorite event of all the time with the Belongingness Committee. So thank you again. So to wrap things up, let me go ahead and share my slides. So to follow the Institute, it's sjsu.edu, Words to Action. That is their website. And, oops, sorry. Let me go ahead now, technology with me. And an upcoming event that the Institute is hosting is called It Is Time, Voices of Athletic Advocatism, October 21st to the 22nd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To register, to go on their website, check out that Words to Action website. I definitely will be looking into that. So no one tell Tony that I will be going to that. And of course, with our Student Success Center, if any of you need advising, heads up to my social work majors, my kinesiology, my public health recreation majors. Remember, October 19th is when you get ready to start registering for spring. I know, I cannot believe it. It's almost a month away. So make an appointment with us, sjsu.edu/CHHS SSC. So definitely make an appointment with us sooner rather than later. The calendar will be filling up soon. So thank you, everyone. Again, it was great to see all of you, and we will see you at the next event. Bye, everyone. Thank you.